Daniel Pink isn't an academic. He's not a researcher, and he's not a management thinker. He's an author. But in his best-selling book, Drive, Daniel Pink set out an idea about motivation that has become extremely well known and is very valuable to us. So in this video, I'm going to look at Daniel Pink's idea of motivation 3.0. Pink divides our understanding of motivation into 3 stages, and this is a simplification. Arguably, it's simplistic, but it is a valuable assessment in that it leads us effectively into Pink's thinking. So, stage 1 is what he called motivation 1.0. And motivation 1.0 is all about fundamental biological needs, the need for safety, security, and a measure of economic well-being. It's very much about the base level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Motivation 2.0 is all about extrinsic motivators that come from outside of ourselves. The promise of reward or the threat of punishment, the carrot and the stick. Motivation 2.0 is fundamentally about promises and threats. And then there's motivation 3.0. And this is about intrinsic motivation, the motivation which comes from within ourselves. This is the drive for fulfillment and for growth, for making our own choices and for having a meaning in our life. To help us to understand the context for these different styles of motivation, motivation 2.0 and motivation 3.0, Pink distinguishes 2 types of work. On the one hand is algorithmic work, and on the other hand is heuristic work. Algorithmic work is very much rule-based work. This is what you do, and this is what you do next. You don't need to think very hard, you just need to follow a set of rules. And when you need to move to the next stage, you follow the next set of rules. Heuristic work has no rules. As a consequence, it requires constant understanding and interpretation and human decision making. Heuristic work is very much thinking work, what we now call knowledge work. And Pink sees that knowledge work is increasing in our world and becoming ever more prevalent across the globe in all areas. What Pink tells us is that extrinsic motivation, rewards or the threat of punishment, works perfectly well with algorithmic work. If you do this, you get that. If you don't do this, you get something else. However, for heuristic work, extrinsic motivation fails. What works is intrinsic motivation. And Pink gives us 7 reasons why extrinsic motivation fails in the case of heuristic work. Firstly, he finds that extrinsic motivators can diminish levels of intrinsic motivation. And this is something that has been discovered within the realms of self-determination theory, which Pink leans heavily upon. And we've got a separate video about SDT. But what we find is that if I offer you an extrinsic motivator, then this robs you of your sense that you are in control, that you have autonomy, and therefore it diminishes your intrinsic motivation. Number 2 is that extrinsic motivators can diminish performance levels. And they can also stifle creativity. Extrinsic motivators can crowd out good behaviour. And in its place, they can encourage shortcuts, cheating, and unethical behaviours. Extrinsic motivators can also become addictive because they stimulate the release of dopamines in our brain. Oh, it's a prize! And as a consequence of that, Extrinsic motivators therefore encourage short-term thinking because we're motivated by that immediate sense of reward rather than the long-term view of how things will work out for ourselves and for our organisations. An often cited example that Daniel Pink uses for the ineffectiveness of extrinsic motivators is that of blood donation. What's been discovered is that if you offer people monetary rewards for giving blood, you actually reduce the level of blood donation, which seems surprising. But it shouldn't be. Because why do we give blood? We give blood because we believe it is good for the society we live in and therefore makes us feel good about ourselves. Perfect example of intrinsic motivation. If, on the other hand, you offer me a reward for giving blood, then firstly, I feel partly that I'm in less control. You're taking control of the situation, I have less autonomy, and that diminishes my intrinsic motivation. But crucially, before, I knew there was going to be some inconvenience and possibly some discomfort in giving blood, but I saw that as a reasonable price to pay for doing good in society. Now, you're making this into a financial and economic transaction, and now I'm weighing up the rewards you're giving me against the costs, the discomfort and the inconvenience. And now I'm looking at the money you're offering and the amount of inconvenience and discomfort, and at an economic level, that doesn't seem like a fair payment. So it isn't really surprising that blood donations go down when you offer financial rewards. Once again, leaning heavily on the ideas of self-determination theory, Daniel Pink identifies 3 pillars of intrinsic motivation. And the first of these is autonomy, our ability to make our own choices in life. The second is mastery, our ability to learn and increase our skill level, our knowledge, our understanding and confidence in doing whatever we choose to do. And the third is purpose. Without a sense of purpose, a sense of meaning, we will not be motivated. And you probably understand that at a visceral level. Think back to when you were a child and someone asked you to do something and the first word that came into your head is, why? Why do you want me to do this? And if you get a poor answer like, because I told you to, you're not going to want to do it. And now you're a grown up, you're really just a child with a big body. And if someone asks you to do something without telling you a good reason, in your mind you're thinking, why? Why should I do that? And even if you don't ask, even if you grudgingly just get on with it because it's your job, you won't be motivated. Therefore, if you want to motivate someone, you have to give them some autonomy. You have to help them feel that they're going to grow and develop as a result of doing it. And you have to give them a good reason why. You have to give them a purpose. You have to give them a meaty because. And finally, Daniel Pink went on to suggest that there are 2 types of people. There are those of us who are primarily motivated by extrinsic motivators, whom he called TYPEX people. And there are those who are primarily motivated by intrinsic motivators, whom he called type I people. And it doesn't take a management theory genius to recognise that this has a close relationship with Douglas McGregor's Theory X and Theory Y. People who are motivated by extrinsic motivators, type X people, are going to thrive with a Theory X style of management, whilst those of us who are intrinsically motivated, type I people, are going to thrive well in a type Y management environment. So, Daniel Pink's Motivation 3.0 is all about intrinsic motivation, and the 3 intrinsic motivators that you can deploy in the workplace are granting people autonomy, allowing people to grow in their mastery of what they're doing, and making sure they understand the purpose behind what you're asking them to do. Please give us a thumbs up if you like this video. There's loads more great management courses content to come, so please subscribe to our channel and hit the bell so you don't miss any of it. I'll see you in the next video, and in the meantime, keep learning.